Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to our show. We have gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the multiverse, two of the nerdiest geeks to be found. We proudly present the professor and her geeky girlness herself, Ace. And now it's time. GeekyKOOL presents Professor and Ace.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 42 of GeekyKOOL presents Professor and Ace. You know, if I would have been thinking about it being episode 42, we should have done a Douglas Adams. It is. It's the meaning of life, universe, and everything. And we blew it. Anyway,
we didn't
we'll have
do
to.
it. I didn't realize it was number 42.
I wasn't thinking about it until today. Until today, when I had actually posted it originally, I saw the number and everything else. I never really thought. I wasn't thinking about it. But yeah, that would have been great. Maybe we'll do next week. We'll do 43 to make up for it.
You know, like that is Shpoo's favorite book. Is The Hitchhiker's Guide. Don't beat me up for this. I've never read it.
Oh.
Because I buy it and then people borrow it.
Yeah, right.
And I never see it again. And so I've never read it because every time it's on my pile, somebody borrows it.
You have to keep a hold of it just like you do your towel.
I do know the story. I've seen the movie.
I know. I know you know the story.
But no, I have not actually read the book. I would really like to read the book, though.
The 5-book trilogy, as it's called.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. That's
Well, right. So, and so next week you won't be able to make it with us, but Shpoo will be with us. So
who knows what you guys will talk about?
Yeah. So we'll figure that out. It may be Douglas Adams. It may be WandaVision. We'll kind of figure that out, play it by ear.
Both of them in there, like who knows?
Oh my, that would be an interesting story, right? But we had decided to go back to the well on one of our favorite things to do, which is talking about classic movies and our love for them. And so we're at 1955 to 1959.
Which again, so hard to pick. We every week we're like, we're gonna do our top 5. And then we get there, and it's like you narrow it down, and you have like 15 on your list. And then you're like, I can only cut it to 8. I can only cut it to 8. So, but, you know, of course, there's your favorites. And then there's the ones that intertwine. Like I said, there are ones that I have to be in a certain mood to watch them, but they're so good, they have to be on the list. So,
Right. No, I agree. And I'm looking at probably 8 that didn't make my list that needed to be on my list and that aren't on either one of our lists. And so, yeah. So, and we'll mention those at the end for people to know. We're not going to go in depth on them, but yeah, my gosh, it gets harder every time as we get close.
I'm going to feel like the 80s are going to be difficult. I think we'll have to do yearly instead of.
Yeah, I agree.
And also, the 70s, though, and this is going to sound bad, but it's my least favorite decade of movies. There are certain ones that are really good, but overall, the 70s, I'm not a big 70s kind of person. So that one might be a little easier, but I still think I'll have at least 7 or 8 because that's just how it is.
Well, I'm with you. Well, and that's really a time period where you're start getting into a lot of horror movies that become what we think of as horror movies now, unlike the more of the classics from 50s and 60s horror movies. We're a little different than the modern horror movies, which really start coming out in the 70s. So
I was shocked I don't have a horror movie on my list.
You know, and I was actually shocked that Horror of Dracula didn't make either one of our lists.
It's on my long list.
Mine too.
So it's there. It's if somebody was like, if I was scrolling through and I saw it and I saw these, I would pick these over it.
Right.
So
Yep.
I'm like, that's how these lists get narrowed down. It's like I have these lists of these movies that are amazing that I love, and then I will eventually go, okay, so if somebody gave me a choice between watching this one and this one right now, which one would I choose?
Right.
And
Right.
where I get my list. So.
And it's hard to do because sometimes you're like, but it depends on my mood. I would watch this one, but today I might watch this one. But yeah, so for you guys that are watching that think that it's like, oh, what are you guys talking about? These are old movies. There shouldn't be more than 3 or 4 total. Like, no, these are great. And here's the other thing I've noticed: how many of these movies are based off of books?
Books or their plays. They were plays first, like
Mm-hmm.
minor plays.
Yep.
Books are a big thing. I love movies that are based on that. And the next one, I have a couple that are based on books too. The next time we do, and one of my favorite movies of all time is in that list, and it's just one of my favorite books of all time is on that list. But no, it's just really, really, really difficult. It
is
so hard.
Well, and next time I think I start getting into areas of ones that are going to be plays first. That because being a theater guy,
right?
There's some classic plays. You're like, oh my gosh, and this movie's so good at it. So so we'll be doing more of this.
I have a musical, and then I have a play, and the play is one that like you've never seen. The one
I have not
never seen is actually based on a play, but it's it's really good. So,
which is strange because I've seen a lot of the ones based off of plays, but not this one.
This one is based off of a play, but it was written as a movie. Sometimes you see ones that are based off plays, and they're very true to the play. This one, This one isn't, and they've actually remade it, and they've done things, and it's become like a musical at one point, and all this stuff. But this one's not. So yeah.
All right. Well, now that we've got everybody set up and people are anticipating, what are they going to talk about tonight? Let's jump in. What one would you like to throw out first?
Let's go 1958, Cary Grant and Sophia Loren, Houseboat.
Yep. This is a good one. This is a really good one, by the way.
This one is one that it was the teetering one, the one like, do I put it on there? Do I not put it on there? But it's the movie where I really, really fell in love with Sophia Loren.
Yes.
Her comedic chops show in this movie, and that's not something she had done really before. She was the sexy foreigner. That's what she still is. Like, I mean, she, up until like the last thing she was in, she was the sexy foreigner.
Right.
But, that's just her role. That's just where she gets pinned. And this one is, she's got some comedy going on. And
she does.
With Cary Grant, which is odd because he's not known as a comedy guy.
He's not.
But Cary Grant's character, Tom, his wife dies, and so he actually has 3 children, and her family wants to keep them up in a farm, and take them up there and all this stuff. Her parents and her sister, I believe. And he decides that he wants to take his children and raise them in Washington, D.C. He takes them, but it's a lot harder being a single dad than he thinks. And he's looking for someone to, be a maid and a caregiver and take care of his children and his house and all of this. And Sophia Loren's character, she is not a housekeeper. She can't even make coffee. She's a spoiled rich girl who is who has run away from her responsibilities in her life and now is taking care of 3 children who she doesn't really like, doing house chores, which she hates, but she really likes Cary Grant's character. Like, she really likes him.
Right.
They fall in love. But at the same time, it's really realistic because usually when you see these shows and they fall in love, a lot of the times the kids will like love her too because she took care of them and stuff. They don't like her. Like they
Yeah,
don't,
not at all.
they're like, no. Like they basically are like, no, you can't marry her. If you marry her, you know, it's against us. And I feel like that's something that happens when you have like stepchildren and you have to like learn to bridge that gap and stuff. So no, it's a really good show. It's a romantic comedy, and you get to see the beautiful Sophia Loren if you like that, which who doesn't? And
Exactly.
in her prime in the beautiful gowns. It's Edith Head was the costume director for this, and as she is for a lot of the movies I choose. I don't know. It's not something that I realized when I'm choosing them, but I am drawn to those like aesthetics, and she was the costume director for this. So I think you should watch it if you haven't.
I agree completely, and people that know me know that romantic comedy is not always in my wheelhouse, but when they're done right, I enjoy a good one, and this is a good one, guys. So even if you're the guy that's like, romantic comedy, it's not the men bashing romantic comedies of the 90s and 2000s. This is actually a very humorous comedy, but also has romance.
Right, and that's the thing, and it's a comedy that is, it's a straight-laced comedy. It's not a Dick Van Dyke type comedy, which is like very physical comedy. There's not a lot of that, and the comic like moments are more realistic comedy. They're not overly done. Like yeah, you can't make coffee, but it's not like Mr. Mom kind of, you know, like, oh my gosh, the whole house is, you know, bubbles everywhere, stuff like that. It's not like that. So it's done in a way that's realistic, but it's funny. And the children in it are super cute and super realistic. Like they are, I feel like they weren't even scripted. I feel like it was just like, say whatever you want to say.
That's possible.
I mean, I doubt it, but I feel like that's like a thing. So
that's a good choice. I saw that one on the list and thought, oh yeah, that's a really good one. That was not on my list. Well done adding that one in. So I'm going to go with, so people don't know this. I used to want to be a lawyer.
I did not know that.
No, right. Most people don't, because, and here was my thought was, I'm good at standing in front of people and presenting things and giving arguments, and I can do that. So that was one of those things in my life in my youth that I really wanted to be a lawyer. Now, being dyslexic, passing the bar, it was going to be really difficult to do.
Right.
And also I had heard that the best trial lawyers were the ones who got C's in law school, and the best people to do the research for the trial lawyers are the people that got A's. I'm like, well, that actually made me feel better. But saying all that, I love courtroom dramas.
Right.
And so we're going to go with one of the classic courtroom dramas that gives you the insight of what it's like to actually be in the room trying to deliberate. Is 12.
I knew this was coming. As soon as you said lawyers, I was like, and it made my not made my short list, but it made my list of almost there.
You're right. This is a great movie. It's Henry Fonda stars in it. Lee J. Cobb, Martin Balsam. Anyway, it's a great movie. It really does give you that whole mentality of, let's all come together quickly and try to get a consensus so we can just get rid of this person. Like,
right. I love this movie. It is like I said on my longer list. I feel like it shows what juries were like then as well.
Yes.
The thing is like you look at it now and you can make the argument that they whitewashed it and they like, oh my gosh, it's just showing the white male's perspective of a jury. But it was actually the white male's perspective of a jury. That's what they did. You know, they didn't have people of color or
Right.
they didn't have women on juries
Right.
ever. And so it was true to its time. Now,
Right.
if they remade it now, they would have, and I think they didn't they remake it?
I don't know if they remade it or not.
I think they were talking about, I just can't remember if they actually did it, but they would have to add female perspectives and people of color and minority perspectives and LGBT, which would still make a great moment, because it's about that give and take, that back and forth, and how much you're willing to give up for justice, or how much you just you're selfish and you don't want to give up anything for justice. And it's very unique in its telling.
It is. Well, and I've been in a couple of trials to where I was on the jury. It would never end anything like this, mind you, but you do have a little bit of that where you're kind of seeing the different personalities of people coming out, and some people wanting to get through this quickly, or
go home.
This is a bad person. We just need to be guilty no matter what, matter what the evidence says. So it's an interesting perspective. I really enjoyed this movie a lot every time I see it. It is, and it's true to the name, Angry Men. So 12 Angry Men.
It's just, I know I've been on a jury once, but it was just a, like, not a big deal kind of thing.
Right.
But even on those type of juries, if you have people who disagree, it gets really heated. But this is a big trial. This is a big case, and the passions come out, which they should. If you really are passionate and you believe that somebody's innocent or guilty or whatever, and you're on the jury, you should vocalize that. And this movie, I think, showcased that more than any other movie has ever showcased. They've had movies since that talk about trials, and of course, John Grisham does a bunch,
right,
and all that. But this one was the courtroom behind the scenes, and I love that. I also love. I was told I should be a lawyer when I was younger because I can argue a case. But one of my favorite movies of all time has a courtroom thing, but it's on next time we do this.
All right. Looking forward to that. The interesting thing here is most of the set is just right here. So most of it's set around this table. You don't get a whole lot of seeing other parts because this is where the action is happening, which is a very unique thing for a movie from this time.
Well, and they didn't have it. It didn't have love interest. It didn't have.
Right.
It was literally. It was like a documentary, like what I would call a mockumentary.
Yeah.
Of what we would do now, like a scripted documentary based on what happens in a jury room. And they're not costume, they're not pretty, their speeches aren't like completely eloquent and beautiful, but they're passionate and they're true to the moment, and it feels like you're setting in on a moment in time, which I like.
I'm with you completely. Yeah. It's what draws me in. And part of it's just fascination with the legal system anyway, and then you throw that in there. And for those that don't know, basically 18-year-old defendant is who they're trying to deliberate on. Yeah. Is he? So that is, anyway, it's a great movie. Check it out if you've not seen it, especially if you like criminal justice stuff or law stuff at all.
I would say if you're like a John Grisham fan, or if you're a fan of those type of movies, or like Law and Order kind of things and stuff like that, this is like the grandfather of those things. Like this is like, I don't think you would have the courtroom genre as much without a movie like this. And then there were TV shows in the 60s that helped with that too. But this was like that. This is a courtroom movie. Right.
Exactly. It's what ushered in all the other stuff. So
Good
all right.
Professor.
Well, thank you. All right. What one are we going to do next for you?
Let's see here. We will go to 1955 And this is Howard Keel and Ann Blythe, and it's the 4th remake of this movie. It's actually number 4 in the making of this movie, but it's Kismet.
Yep. I think I read that it was the 4th one.
It's the 4th. They actually have, and I've seen the others, all decent. Like, they're not bad.
Right.
This one is done as a musical comedy.
Mm-hmm.
The other
Right.
are not. And I feel like the story lends itself to musical comedy a little bit more than it does just pure comedy. Or the one of them was like a romance, and
Right.
yeah, it has romance in it, but it is a mistaken identity type of story. He's Howard Keel plays a guy who he's a vagrant. He's poor, but he's good at like figuring out what people want to hear. And so he fakes his way into becoming, a seer, becoming a, mystic, in this court. And his daughter falls in love with a boy that she thinks is like, she's like, it's the reverse of Aladdin. Like, she thinks he's this poor guy, and she falls in love with him, and he's actually the prince.
Right.
Yep. And her father doesn't want her marrying this poor guy. Her father is trying everything in his power to get her to forget about him. Well, he's also like kind of falling in love with like the sheriff. I don't know the technical term, but it's like he's in charge of all of the stuff. But the prince, his head wife, because they had harems back then,
right?
And it's just this great story of being at the right place at the right time, or the wrong place at the right time, or the wrong place at the wrong time. And it's like coincidence and circumstance. Yep. And I love Howard Keel. I think that he is super underrated with his, like, when people think about musical theater and musical movies, he's not the first person you think of, but he might need to be up higher on people's list, because he is a Broadway actor. He is a singer, and that is what he did. And this one is just fun. I put this on the list, and some of the horror movies didn't make it because I put like this one on my list. But everybody knows I love horror, but a lot of people don't know that I adore musicals. Like, I love musicals. They're one of my favorite things. And this one, I mean, I've had Calamity Jane on the list before. This one is up there, and he was in Calamity Jane. So I like Howard Keel.
He's a good actor. No, I'm with you completely. This is a great movie. I don't know if I've seen the original ones, the ones before it, but I've seen this one. And so when you put it on the list, I'm like, I know that name. I went and looked at it. I'm like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
2 of them I don't think are called Kismet. They're called something else. I will get it and put it in something in like the comments and stuff. But they are all the same story. It's like women, the story that I told you that I really liked it for the women, and they've redone it like so many times. Right. But that tells you how good of a story these are, because now we're in a place in Hollywood for the last, like, I don't know, 5 to 10 years where they're doing remakes and reboots and stuff, because they're finding they can't come up with original ideas. This is a time when they were coming up with original ideas. And if you look at, they can come up with all these original ideas because, movies, well, we're getting into the 50s, the late 50s, early 60s. So we are starting to get to that point where it's like, a lot of movies have been made at this time, but the movies we've talked about in the past, our past list, they hadn't been made before because they weren't movies before. Right. Kismet, to be saying 1955, it's already been made into 4 movies, 4 feature movies, not the shorts, 4 feature movies. That's a big deal.
It is.
Good story.
I agree. Well, and as we were talking, I think part of the reason Hollywood's having a hard time is they're not going to the book source like
No.
what they did in this time frame. You know, you have the comic book stores for your comic book movies, and you do have some fantasy based ones, but those are mostly becoming series instead of movies. But you know, Hollywood would be smart to catch on to this whole idea that find a novel that's doing really well, that's 3 or 4 years old, and
Right.
adapt it. I don't
Well,
know.
if they do it with like really popular series books, like the Harry Potter, the
Right.
Twilight, the 50 Shades,
Ugh.
like all of these. I know, but let's face it, those books made millions, the movies made millions because people love the books.
Right.
And you know, that's just, but they're thinking big.
Right.
And that's the problem, is there are millions of stories out there in these. I have author friends who write these amazing stories, which would be great screenplays, but Hollywood's not looking for that. They're looking for
That's
the
true.
big thing. So
Right.
yeah, it's disappointing. I think that because of how studios were run back in the day, that they could take a chance on movies that weren't as well known, or stories that weren't as well known, or they can't do that now as much because of the bottom dollar, because they're really worried about, they can't make a movie for cheap anymore, like big studios. Independent makers do it all the time, so it can be done. They
Right.
just don't know it's like they forgot the formula.
Which is crazy.
It's super crazy. They have, like, they could put out really good films that don't cost a lot of money. Some of my favorite films of the last like 30 years are not major films. They're independent films, or, you know, like two guys with a camera.
Right.
So that's my little spiel there.
All right. Very good. All right.
Your next one.
My next one. So I'm talking about movies based off of books. I'm going to go to my favorite, my favorite modern American author, which is John Steinbeck.
I love John Steinbeck.
Yeah, I do too. I enjoy Steinbeck a lot. So now, some British authors I prefer, or some sci-fi or whatever. But as far as a modern classic American author, John Steinbeck's really the guy I go to.
I like Hemingway too, but yeah.
I don't know. Old Man and the Sea bored me to tears.
Oh my gosh, I love that movie. I love that movie. The book was good, but the movie was...
Well, the movie would have to be better than the book for me. The book just, I mean, anyway, neither here nor there. The book was not for me.
But John Steinbeck, amazing.
I agree. Exactly. One of the greats. And a little movie was made in this time period, 1955, with one of the upcoming stars, unfortunately, who died way too early in life, and that's East of Eden with James Dean and Raymond Massey, Julie Harris. So, and we were talking about this movie a little bit before we started, but I love this movie because it truly is a brother against brother sort of thing. So you see the interaction with the father and the two brothers pitted against each other, really a Cain versus Abel sort of situation. And James Dean is not the good boy. He's not the guy that he has good intentions,
right?
But
and I said this earlier, just so everybody knows what we talked about earlier. I have a James Dean movie on my list as well. It's my number one movie of this time period. But I feel like James Dean, if he wouldn't have died, I feel like he would have grown into his own, and his acting chops were getting better and better with each role he did. This one and like the other ones, the other one on your list is I feel like he acted it the same way, which why these two did not make my list, is because he acted it the same way, even though the characters were different. I feel like he acted it in the same way, which was his style. And then I feel like he would have outgrown his original acting style. Most people do. Brad Pitt can act like he did in Thelma and Louise now.
Right. Right.
But for a long time he did, because that
Right.
was just his style. So
Well, it's kind of where you get put into the role. They want a character like this, so they're going to bring you in to do this because name recognition. Yeah.
yeah. But James Dean in this movie, I really liked him. It's not that I don't like the movie. It's just that but I really liked it. I do find that the dynamics of the family are an interesting story. And John Steinbeck, that's a Steinbeck thing, is
it is
the dynamic, whether it's from family or friends, with like Of Mice and Men, which is one of my favorite Steinbeck books of all time.
Mine too.
He brings these dynamics from dialogue. Like he writes it and you get the dynamics from the dialogue.
Yes.
Which is something that writers a lot of the times miss.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't. And the screenplay was written very much like the book was written. The dynamics come from the dialogue and how you speak to each other. So I like it.
Well, and the whole idea that the youngest brother has to prove his love and his loyalty over and over, feels that need that he's going to be rejected constantly, and is at some level. So it's a really interesting family dynamic. I love the scene with the cabbage, where the cabbage is rotting.
Oh my God, I forgot about that scene.
Yeah, I mean, there's some beautiful, weird but beautiful scenes on the father invests all this money in cabbage, and because of the war and everything else that's about to happen, the cabbage ends up rotting, and he gets paid nothing for it. And so then that causes family turmoil.
It does, but it's also a symbol. It's a symbolism that because the cabbage doesn't look rotted from the outside.
No, it doesn't.
It's rotted from the inside. And that's the beauty of a Steinbeck, is it has that, you have to peel back the layers to find what the real intention is. And I forgot about that scene. I remember it in the book. I just forgot about the scene in the book. Oh my goodness. I know that sounds weird, but it happens.
No, that happens. And I've watched this movie several times. We actually watched this in English class because our English teacher would give us breaks from doing things, but she always had something that was related to a novel, and she put this on, and I was just engrossed in it. And I'm like, wow, okay, I'm into this. So, and so that may have been my first exposure to James Dean, other than just seeing his picture, because he has the iconic look and.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So this is, and that may be one of the reasons it sticks with me, that it makes it one of my favorite movies. His acting is very similar, but you can say that about a lot of actors. Anything with Jack Nicholson in it, it's pretty much.
It's exactly these are the problems I have with. It's not a James Dean. I don't want people thinking, "Oh, AJ hates James Dean." One of his movies on my list, and he only had 3 movies. So I'm just telling you, all 3 of his movies will be discussed tonight.
Yes, they will. Spoilers.
But it's a thing. But he didn't get the ability, because he passed away,
to
grow out of his original way of acting. He didn't. He started to, but he didn't get there. And yes, there are actors who will act the same way, no matter what movie they're playing. Almost like Jack Nicholson is a perfect example. It's like the Joker, and everybody's like, Jack Nicholson's Joker is perfect. And I was like, Jack Nicholson's Joker is Jack Nicholson pretending to be the Joker. It's not the Joker. Do you know what I mean? Not that I hate it.
I know. I think he actually pulled it off, because I think they're close to the same thing. But whatever.
His characters are all very similar. But the characters themselves aren't. It's just the way he plays it.
Right.
And so it makes you feel like they're connected, even though they're not. So that's the way James Dean's first 2 movies were for me. It was like the character, the way he acted in the characters, even though the characters were completely different, made it feel like they were connected, and they're not. So.
Well, and I get that. I do. I When I watch them, I don't think of those characters being related. But I'm also engrossed into the story.
Yeah.
And so, I get a lot of his mannerisms, his reactions, his facial expressions. A lot of that is very similar.
Very Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage is like that too. I actually think Nicolas Cage was better when he was younger.
I was going to say,
I think he got stuck in. I think that he's in reverse of what I feel like James Dean would have done, which was
right.
I feel like Nicolas Cage was growing. He found something that worked for him, and now it's all he does.
Right. Well, and again,
but he gets paid millions of dollars to do it. So I feel
that's exactly right. So I was going to say that's what people want. Sometimes I want to bring you in to do this role because I want you to do it this way.
Yeah.
And so that may be part of it. But Raising Arizona, that's just a perfect example. He didn't act that way at all. And
one of my favorite Cage movies. I can't help it. Him and Holly Hunt. Whatever.
Or Ed.
That was amazing.
Ed Jr.
Give me that movie.
We will talk about that movie at some point in depth because I got a feeling it's going to be on a list.
Best Nicolas Cage movies. There's 3. No.
All right, so we'll move along from east of Eden. We'll go northwest. No, we're not doing that. No. I was getting stuck with directions. Sorry, go right ahead. What movie we got here?
We'll go with another one that's based on a book. Now, this is autobiography. It is one of the most important books I think that anybody could read, because of the actual story that it tells, and it is the Diary of Frank.
Right on.
1959, Millie Perkins, Shelley Winters, Edwin. In it was Edwin funny, but during the Holocaust. It was a weird mix, but when I think Millie Perkins, this is the only movie I think of with her, just because I feel like she transformed before my eyes from this little girl to this young woman, which is what Anne Frank did while they were locked in an attic.
Right.
It's my favorite adaptation of the book.
Right.
It's I like the ones that they did where they showed what happened after the book.
Right.
Sad and horrifying, but at least you don't have this whole thought in your head that it's a happy ending. It was not a happy ending for this family or anyone in there. The father, Otto, is the only one who survived, and it's when people try to talk about the Holocaust, it's a really hard thing because in our minds, for some reason, we have them put back to being such a long time ago. Like we are like, no, this was such a long time ago, but it really wasn't. And this movie, I had my kids watch it when they got old enough. I've suggested it to people who are like learning history. It's a story that if you're not a book reader,
right,
this one goes very similar to the book enough that you're going to get the point.
Right.
And I think for people who are visual learners or visual people, I know you are. You're visual. You like visual things. And if you were having a hard time reading the book, because it is a diary, it's not a book. It's a diary, and a diary of a 14-year-old girl. Nonetheless,
right.
The age spans a little bit because she's in there for like 2 years, but majority of the time, 14-year-old girl.
Right.
So it can get a little flighty in the book, but when you watch it and you see the interactions and stuff, it's the tale of, it's the true story of like a family that loved each other and wanted to protect each other and wanted to protect everyone and lived in an unspeakable manner just to be able to live, and then they didn't.
Right.
And No, it's beautifully acted. Millie
It
is
is.
amazing as Anne Frank, and the last scene when she's up there and she's like looking at the sky and stuff, that's not in that little monologue isn't in the Diary of Anne Frank because she was taken away before she could write in it. But it was like Anne Frank's voice was doing it.
Right.
So
Right.
I really like that movie, and
Oh, that's a great selection. That's not a happy feel good movie.
no,
but it's a very good movie, which as you said, people need to see it and remember that these
right.
things can happen. If we let things get out of control with hating people for whatever reason, this is the sort of things that we lead to. So yeah.
And people seriously think when you hear the word the Holocaust or the World Wars or anything like that, the Depression, they're like, oh, that was like so far ago. But it really wasn't. Like, if Anne Frank would have survived, she would have still been alive today, unless, like, she could still have been alive today. There are people
Right.
who were born the same year as her who are alive today.
Yes.
Think of as not like these ancient, like, and that's the point, is the point of this movie. The point of the reason Otto put his daughter's diary out there wasn't to make money. It was to show the story of what this regime and of hate, this regime of hate,
right,
that trampled through Europe and through other parts of the world, because America had people who followed Hitler. It still does. But this regime,
crazy.
Yeah, this regime of hate, literally what it did to her and how it stole her childhood. She was a kid, and it stole
completely.
Yeah, and so he put out the book. I've read lots of articles when he talked to reporters, and he was just like, I wanted her to live forever. And I wanted her story to be told because it's an important story. And I love one of her first entries is like, who's going to want to, like, who am I writing this for? Nobody's going to want to read, the writings of a little girl. And yet we do. And we should.
Right. Exactly.
Sorry, sometimes my movies get political.
No, that's if you're having a political problem with us talking about Nazis being bad, turn us off. I'm sorry, and I'm a little more conservative. AJ's a little more liberal, typically on our politics. That doesn't bother us. We're great with that. But we both agree, if you are offended by us talking bad about Nazis, get out.
Like, the thing is if you're offended by us saying the story of a teenage girl who was hid away in an attic for a few years because of who she was, like what religion she was and what race she was born, and then was discovered and taken away to a camp, separated from her male family, and put into a camp and tortured and killed, then I what am I going to say to you? Nothing I say. You wouldn't like anything I say.
I'm with you. Yeah.
I can't help it.
Well, that should be a universal thing of that. This should offend you to your core that this happened.
Yes.
That we, not you and I, but as the world, we allowed this to go on. Right. So.
And we did.
Anyway.
Not all of us did, but this story, if you haven't ever read The Diary of Anne Frank, then I would suggest you watch this movie. Just because if you haven't read The Diary of Anne Frank and you're an adult, you're probably not going to read The Diary of Anne Frank. It's more something that you, in your adolescence, it's just something that you should pick up then. But I think you should. But at least watch the movie, because then you'll understand where we're coming from with this whole thing, and the movie was great. It was directed beautifully. It was a small set.
It is.
The costumes are amazingly accurate for what they would have had when they had them. The everything in it is done in a meticulous way. It is
Right.
The set was designed just like the attic where they lived. So I mean, it's just one of those things. It's a history lesson just waiting for you to watch it. So,
and it's a very moving movie. Very, very moving. So yeah, that's a great selection. I was glad that was on here. So we're going to go for something that's very somber, something less somber, more happy with singing, because you like musicals, right? I know you do. So we're going to go with something that is a musical that's on my list. And when you think of the 1950s, we think of, as far as actors, we think of James Dean, and on the female lead, we think of Miss Marilyn Monroe.
Right.
We're going with Some Like It Hot with Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon, and Marilyn Monroe.
I knew it was on your list. That's why I didn't make mine. I knew it was on your list.
Right. Well, I told you I love this movie. So, and I just find this movie funny. It's the whole, two guys who think they're going to be killed, go basically in drag. They're afraid they're going to be killed.
They're running away from, like, they witnessed
a mobster.
Yeah. They witnessed a crime and they're running away.
They are. And so they dress as women and join a musical band that's touring around, and
all female
band, and it's a great fun comedy of the whole thing of where the guys like these girls, but also wants to, they're going to have to stay in character. So they switch roles and they're trying all this, and then they're trying to get Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis' characters trying to one up each other and trying to, keep the other one from actually getting Marilyn Monroe. And really, it's, in a very unusual way, Marilyn Monroe kind of plays the blonde, dumb girl, which she doesn't usually do. I mean, usually her characters, you're like, wow, okay, that's not what you think, but this one is more that way. But it is a funny comedy, lots of slapstick here and there, but also just some mental comedy with it also. And I love Marilyn Monroe, and this movie just makes me laugh every time I see it. I chuckle every time I see it.
It's not my favorite Marilyn movie, but I enjoy it. It's a feel good kind of movie.
It is.
It's a movie that's just like, if I want to laugh, I'm gonna watch it. And
that's exactly it.
Sometimes that's all you want.
Exactly.
It's sticky enough. I'm not a huge fan of like movies that are pure slapstick. It's just not my like. I mean, if you've watched any of these, you know that it's not really my. But it has enough slapstick that if somebody really enjoys that, they're going to enjoy it. But at the same time, if somebody enjoys a little bit of witty banter,
right.
It too. So
there's a lot of banter in this. Yeah, it will hit the funny bone for everybody in at least one part, and for me, all the way through. And I
you kind of movie.
Yeah.
And that's just because I know his movies preferences much better.
But I pulled out a musical for you.
I appreciate that.
And actually, I like a good musical if it's not overdone. Like Sound of Music is a great movie. I've seen it so many times that I can't watch it.
Sound of Music it's the Christmas Story. It's your Christmas story. See, I have the problem with A Christmas Story.
Right.
That I dislike that movie. And it's not that I disliked it the first time I saw it. It's just because it played over.
It did. Yeah. That's true.
Just get to the point where I love the Sound of Music. So, but you just get to a point where it's like it's the achy breaky heart syndrome. Achy breaky heart. No, it's a thing. It's the achy breaky heart syndrome, and it's with movies and music. if something is good and somebody plays it over and over and over and over and over again, and you are forced to watch it over and over and over again, or hear it over and over and over again, you are going to end up hating that movie or that song.
The funny thing with that song is I hated it from the first second I heard it. So, this is awful.
The more you heard it, tell me you didn't hate it.
I would hear somebody playing, I'm like, oh my gosh, will somebody turn that crap off? But that was really kind of how I felt the first time I heard it. But I am not a country music person, so fingernails on the chalkboard, and I'm like, this song is so horrible. Now the really funny thing is, his daughter Miley actually is very talented. She's a little crazy at times. But man, I heard her sing with Joan Jett. I'm like, holy crap! I would pay money to go see them together because that was awesome.
You just love Joan Jett.
I do. I'm a rocker, baby.
He's an '80s rocker.
All the way, all the way.
Well, you brought up a Marilyn movie, so I'm going to bring up one, and this
please do.
Probably the most iconic Marilyn moment in movie history.
It is
probably one of the most iconic movie moments ever, and that is the white dress on the parade flying up. That one, yep. And a lot of people don't know what movie this is. Like, they really don't. And it's called The 7-Year Itch. And you see there, the man there, he's playing in, what was his name? Richard Sherman. So Tom Elwell plays Richard.
Yep.
Yeah. And he lives in New York, and this is a time in New York. This movie was 1955, and basically when the city would get hot in the summertime, this is a true story, this is what happened. People, because it was so crowded and it was asphalt and it was hot, they would send their wives and children off to vacation for the summer, and they would work in the city, the men. So Richard sends his wife and his son off to Maine, and he's living in this apartment by himself, basically. And Marilyn Monroe just happens to move in upstairs. And he finds that they have like a staircase that's been cut off to go to her house. Like, it's all kinds of things. And the whole movie, him and his wife have been married for 7 years. And there's an old saying about 7-year itch. Like, if you can get past the 7-year mark, your marriage is good, because at the 7-year mark, you start thinking about other people. And this whole movie has him doing this mental monologue in his head about whether or not he should cheat on his wife, Marilyn Monroe. Even though nothing she says or does actually makes you think that she wants him.
Right. Nothing at all.
It is all like, she's a little gullible and naive and stuff like that, but she flirts, but not in a way that it's like, I want you flirt. It's just her personality.
Right.
He mentally monologues, trying to figure out if he should cheat on his wife with this woman or not, even though that's really not an option. I picked this movie. One, because you have to have that iconic Marilyn moment.
Agreed.
And it is the most iconic Marilyn moment in movie history. It is. No one, if you say Marilyn Monroe, you think of two outfits. And that is this one. And that is when she is singing, of course,
Happy Birthday.
No, not in movie. She didn't do that in the movie.
That's right. That's right.
But in the movie,
that's right.
Diamonds are a girl's best friend with the pink dress.
Yes, they are. Yes, that's right. Yes.
The white dress are what people think of when Marilyn. And
that's true. Yes.
And this
I agree.
But it's not bad. It's not great, but it's iconic, and you have to have an iconic movie. And the writing is good, though. It has a good script.
It was number 3 on my list. So it was on my list also, and I didn't take it off when I knew you had it. I'm like, okay, we'll just have it together. This is my first Marilyn movie I ever watched, and the psychological part of is it Richard? I'm trying to remember. Anyway,
Richard Sherman.
Yeah, Richard. That's right.
Sherman.
That part is fascinating. Just because of the way his inner dialogue, he's convincing himself of stuff, and there is actually psychological proof that 7 years is one of those spots. Married a year is a spot, and then married 7's a spot, and then married 20's a spot. But 7's a huge spot. A lot of divorces happen at that 7-year mark, or right around that 7-year mark. Well, so psychologically, it is a true spot.
And the thing is, and a lot of people don't realize this, that your basic cells, like scientifically, your body changes every 7 years. You have a 7 cycle in your body where you completely change, not your DNA, but your body completely changes every 7 years. Your taste change,
right?
Your things that you like change. It's called growing up, but at the same time, it's a scientifically reason for it. And so 7 years is that, like, if it hits those spots every 7 years, you're a different person.
Right.
So if you're a different person and they're a different person, like, are you still in love? And that's a thing.
It is.
And the thing is like, this movie he realizes that he loves his wife.
Right.
It's not like he actually cheats on his wife.
Right.
It is just the funny part about this movie is this inner monologue about that whole, well, I could get away with this. She's away. She's in Maine. She would never know. But then he's like, oh, no, she would know. She would know. And then the phone rings and it says wife.
Right.
Like she has these like moments and he's like, oh, no, she would know. Hi, honey. Like,
right.
It's one of those things that I feel like at the time Hollywood did not talk about. Like, you should not talk about infidelity. You're talking 1955.
Right.
So the American family and the structure of that nuclear family was still a huge, huge thing. I'm surprised that this movie was actually allowed to be made the way it came out.
Right.
With Marilyn showing her underwear with the grate. And because of the idea that this man is literally lusting after Marilyn Monroe while his wife's away.
Right.
But it got made.
It did. And
so, we have this peek into the idea of this man in the 50s who loves his wife, but, she's away. And that means I can do what I want, kind of thing. Which is not the case. Just so anyone's watching, I don't believe in infidelity. I'm a very much. If you're in a relationship.
Right. Exactly. No. And then you've got the fact that it's Marilyn that's moved in. So I mean, but
so sweet in this movie.
She is.
Like, the things she says and does are, yes, it's naive and it's like ditzy blonde. She got typecast very well with the ditzy blonde, even though I know, because I've seen movies with her, that she's not.
No, right. Yes.
But, she got typecast that way. But I don't think anybody else could have pulled off this movie, because she also has those moments where you see like the Norma Jean moments.
Yep.
That are like the girl next door.
Right.
Like, she doesn't realize she's like turning this man on by standing over this grate. Like, she just thinks it feels good.
Right. Exactly.
She ended up turning on men for the next 50 years because they see that image and they're like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
They're like, yeah.
Yep. No, great selection. Like I said, it was number 3 on my list because it is so iconic. It's Marilyn really playing to it, and she has some really funny lines. And again, some of it's not slapstick, but the delivery of it is great. And the whole fact she's playing off this guy who thinks that she is madly in love with him, and she just is clueless.
She is not interested in him.
Not at all.
Talk to somebody. She's just like, oh,
right. She's bored. Everybody's gone. Everybody's out of the city.
And he's not. And they cast it perfect, because if they would have cast someone like a Cary Grant or
right.
a very good looking, romantic looking Rock Hudson type of character, it wouldn't have played off as well. He's a very average looking man.
Let's throw that back up there for people. So yeah, he's not a huge charmer there.
He's not ugly. You know,
no, he's not ugly. No, right.
He is the man next door.
He's
not like this, oh my gosh, swoony man. So the dynamic between, you know, a beautiful woman like Marilyn and him, it's not that he couldn't have gotten her, because I know people who are with people that are like really attractive and they're average. Not that they're ugly, they're just average, or vice versa, you know. And
sometimes,
but the thought is, like, he just thinks that because she's talking to him, she must want him. It's a very egocentric kind of movie.
It is very, very psychological on his part, which it's fascinating to dive into that. So yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, so it's kind of like how, you know, we've got you, and then we've got Spoo. God bless him. I don't know.
Oh, Spoo, you do not want to hear this one. He just compared me to Marilyn, and compared to you, the guy in 7-Year Itch. Apparently, I'm hot, and you're not. I find him attractive. He's adorable.
See, there you go. That's what's important. Who was the guy that had married Drew Barrymore? That I was like, this guy's just ugly. What in the world is she doing?
John Green?
Yes. I looked at that and thought, Tom Green. I'm like, this guy gives hope to every male out there. You have Drew Barrymore, who is one of my favorites, and she's just amazing. And Tom Green, I'm like, this dude is ugly. I mean, God, even, I don't know. So anyway, so move along from that.
What is your next movie?
Well, I'd actually, not meaning to, I was kind of joking about directions earlier, but talking about directions, it's North by Northwest.
I knew this was going to be on your list.
Did you? You knew this one, huh?
You mentioned this one before.
Okay. Well, and this is a great movie. So Cary Grant stars in this movie. It's an Alfred Hitchcock movie, which most people that watch this don't realize at first it's an Alfred Hitchcock movie. 1959 spy thriller where Cary Grant's character is mistaken for a spy. He's not really a spy, but people think he is. And so he's got this mysterious agency chasing him and doing all these things, and he just wants to be left alone. And it's like, boy, before James Bond happened, we had North by Northwest, also based off of not a book, but yeah,
play.
It was a screenplay, so I maybe it was just made for this. Also stars Eva Saint and James Mason. So, but this is one of my favorites. I love watching this movie. One of my favorite Cary Grant movies.
The airplane scene is iconic.
Yes,
it
is iconic, and people use it in a lot of other movies. James Bond used it in other movies. So it is an iconic scene. But yeah, Hitchcock, a very interesting Hitchcock movie, because not your typical Hitchcock movie at all.
Yeah, no, I would say that it's not as it's not like as psychological as
it's not.
Hitchcock. It's actually like Hitchcock trying to veer into action movies.
Right.
If you think of it like that.
Now, when you watch some of the scenes, you're like, that's very much a Hitchcock moment there. He frames the picture this way. You're like, okay, definitely a Hitchcock movie. But if you didn't know it up front as a Hitchcock movie, you might miss it.
If you notice cinematography, which a lot of people don't when they watch movies,
right?
I'm one of those weird nerds that do. You see Hitchcock has a specific way he frames.
He does.
Specific way he uses shadow and light, and the way he uses depth depth perception with Hitchcock is a huge thing.
It is true.
The plane is a beautiful example of it. It is not something that you would just go, oh, that's Hitchcock. But if you know enough about Hitchcock movies, you can see Hitchcock's fingerprints all over it.
You sure can.
The way it is framed, like it is shown, like the picture you had up. That is a scene that's a still from the movie. That depth right there is a Hitchcock.
Yep.
It is him running toward the camera with something behind it, like even the post being where they are is a Hitchcock frame.
It is.
And but no, it's a really good movie. It's not your typical Hitchcock movie. You think of Hitchcock and you think, most people think of Hitchcock and they have like a certain one that they come to in their head. This one is one that might not come to your mind at all when you first think of Hitchcock.
Right.
It's not that like, oh, Hitchcock, yes, that one.
Right. Yeah. When people say Hitchcock, this is not the first one you're going to come to your head. Psycho, maybe Birds, a lot of other ones will come to your head. For me, Rebecca, but this one's a great one. I love this one.
Well, different one for him too. Rebecca. Yeah. I mean, it's based on a book. Rebecca was a different one for him too. It was American one. Like it's a thing. But no, I really like this pick. And so, me, I like Hitchcock. So
I do too. He's probably my favorite director. So yeah. Yep.
Speaking of Hitchcock.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to go 1958. And James Stewart, Kim Novak, and that is Vertigo.
Vertigo is a great one. Also on my list.
Yay.
Yeah. Where did I do with it here? Hold on. Where's Vertigo?
Finding it.
Come on. Here it is. Okay, there we are.
I love Jimmy Stewart. I think that he brings this humility to every role that he does, even when it's not like it's a weird thing. He has this like, I could be your next door neighbor. I could be your friend.
Does.
He very much has the feeling, and this is going to sound weird, but he has very much a feeling of a Mr. Rogers. And I know it's not weird, but it's the way he talks, and that voice has the soothingness to it. It does tone to it. Vertigo is not my favorite Jimmy Stewart movie. However, I love Kim Novak, and she is very much underrated. And this is a new war film. It's got suspense and intrigue and a little touch of romance, but not romance. You know what I mean? It's like into the romantic field. It just puts its toe into it. It's like it doesn't fall all the way into the water of romance. It's just like, let's dip our little toes into it. But it's beautifully filmed. Like we were talking about Hitchcock. I actually think this is one of my favorite Hitchcocks based on the way it's filmed. Mm-hmm. The way that he uses the like the stairs, and the way he uses the height. I mean, in the way he uses frame, and he frames them together in a way that is soft and romantic, but that's not the feel of the scene. Right. Which lends you to have that like dip the toe into the romance, but it's not the meaning of the scene. It's just and he soft focused them, which had not been done a lot. Right. And it's in color, with soft focus, which makes it even feel more like dreamy and ethereal, but psychological and suspenseful at the same time. It feels like a soft nightmare that you can't wake up from.
That's a great description. Yes, I like that. Yes,
it's because he uses soft focus, and it's because the colors of the outfits and the shadows behind them and that surround them, they pop, but then he soft focuses them so that it literally makes them have this glow around them. Mm-hmm. And it's a beautifully filmed movie.
It is beautiful. Oh, the rooftop scene, and I love this movie. It was actually number 2 on my list. So of course you're like, okay, what's Larry like? Noir, Hitchcock. Yeah, we're right there. So yeah.
Right there.
No, so that's a great movie. I'm glad you brought that one up because, and an underrated one for Hitchcock. When people also talk about Hitchcock, I mean, with North by Northwest, it's just a different style of movie.
Right.
People don't think about it, but this one's, it's just an underrated movie by Hitchcock. Very psychological.
It's very it delves into mental health, but
Very much so.
without being like in your face mental health. I know that sounds weird, but it's like that soft focus. It soft focuses everything in it. Every underlying message or symbol is soft focused. So you have to grasp it as it comes onto the screen and as they speak. You have to grasp it, and it's a beautifully. I mean, I think it is my favorite Hitchcock movie when it comes. It's not my favorite screenplay that he did, but it's my favorite film. It's my favorite cinematically viewed. I can literally look at it and look at the stills from it, and it transports me, and it's beautiful. So, yeah.
It is beautiful. I agree. It's a great movie. That's a great pick. All right.
Novak too. Did you have a crush on Kim Novak?
What?
Kim Novak. Did you have a crush?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, she's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Most definitely. Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking of something else. I'm like, what did she say? Oh, Kim Novak. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, she's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, she's okay, she's not Drew Barrymore, but she's up there. So yeah. Anyway. She's not Marilyn Monroe, but it's all right. It's all good. I do like her. So. Right. Nobody can be Marilyn. So, all right. So now we're going to move into as Monty Python would say, now for something completely different.
We like that.
So we do. So something that's, something else that was big in the 50s was your monster and space movies. So we're going with a classic from the time where we get one of our favorite robots of all time. We're going to go a little Forbidden Planet.
Oh my God.
Robbie Robot.
I have a Robbie Robot. Have you ever shown you my Robbie Robot? I have a toy.
I think you have. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I love him. Okay. So this was the one that killed me to leave off of my list. Oh my God. I was like, I can't have 9. I can't have 9. We already go over 12. I love Robbie the robot. I love Robbie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like he is, when people think of robots, this is what they think of.
Right. Right.
Like it's campy, but it's cool. And it back in the day, like, it was just this outrageous thought that there was this humanoid, like, moving thing that could talk, but it was machine. But
right.
No, this is like one of my favorite sci-fi movies of all time.
This is a great one. And it's, I think, one of the first, if not, I think it's the first sci-fi movie set on a foreign planet. Because most of the other sci-fi stuff was coming to Earth. It's, you get some serial stuff with Buck Rogers and with Flash Gordon, but not really full-length movies.
Not a full-length feature film.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking full-length feature film. I think you might be right. I can't remember any of them. Any other ones that had that where they literally are on another planet.
It's also the first place that depicts humans traveling faster than light speed in a starship. So Star Trek can thank a little bit of Forbidden Planet there.
A lot of things can thank Forbidden Planet. Like,
I agree.
It's just sci-fi in general can thank Forbidden Planet. So
Interestingly, it stars Walter Pidgeon and Francis, who's great, and then Leslie Nielsen, who we typically think of with slapstick, with Airplane and Naked Gun and stuff like that. But he is a really good actor.
He was in one of mine a few weeks ago with the Tammy Bachelor.
He was.
He he played a romantic lead in that, and it was so weird. And I've watched that movie so many times, and I know it's him, but every time I watch it, I don't think it's him. It's one of those things, you're so used to him with the white hair,
Right,
and you're
right,
so used to him being just like slapstick funny that it's
right.
really hard to picture him being anything else. But before he was slapstick funny with white hair, he was a really good,
He
like,
was.
action, romance, comedy, but not slapstick comedy actor.
Right.
So no, I love that. I did an art piece with her and Robbie the Robot. I used to say,
Awesome.
like, it's awesome. But yeah, I love it.
No, you know, for people that don't know Leslie Nelson, you know, he is well known for his comedy, but like you said, he's also known for this. Makes me want to say, surely that's not Leslie Nelson. Yes,
Right.
it is. Don't call me Shirley.
It's so funny.
So yeah, no, so this is a fun sci-fi movie. It's, you know, the plot's decent. The movie is shot really fun. It's worth checking out, especially people that are in sci-fi. This is classic. This is stuff that, it's campy, but this is where sci-fi came from as far as movies. You know,
Right.
We have books and stuff that were a lot more intense sci-fi, but definitely check this out.
Campy, but there's I love B sci-fi movies from this time.
Yep.
This one is not a B sci-fi movie from
No,
this
it's
time.
not.
It's an A sci-fi movie from this time frame, which is saying that the script is actually decent, the acting is decent,
Right.
and the sets and the costumes and everything are very much. It was a high budget sci-fi movie.
It was. Yes.
Like, it wasn't high budget compared to what we have now, but back then,
Well,
they didn't give a lot of budget to sci-fi movies. They just
right,
didn't.
right.
So if
No,
you
well,
compare it to
no.
no.
Yeah, no, I agreed. Great movie. Check it out, guys, if you've not seen that one. It's worth watching. There's an appreciation you have for it. This, like, oh, I love this movie. This is great. So
I love Robbie the Robot.
yeah.
He's like,
Some people actually compare it to William Shakespeare's The Tempest, which is interesting.
I thought about doing like a whole article on this, because there's so many movies that are actually based on Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Everybody knows, like, 10 Things I Hate About You is The Taming of the Shrew. But
Right.
movies that are based on classic literature that people don't realize. And I think this one was always compared to that. So yeah, I think it would be very, very interesting. I haven't actually gone into the details of that one, so that could be something fun.
That would be something fun. I would.
If I ever get a chance to write again for not. I write all the time.
That is the problem with being a writer, right? Is you got to write for money now.
Yes. And it's not like I can just make anything up. No, I'm a journalist, so I have to, like, write all the facts down and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a fun thing.
Maybe they'll let you do an entertainment piece and you can write.
That's not my department.
Not yet.
Well, the nerd informant, one of the nerd informants is my editor, my entertainment editor. And so he writes all the entertainment pieces. So
Yeah, all right.
But
we'll let Tim do that. That's fine.
That's okay. I get the breaking news. It's all good.
There you go.
My next pick is I love Doris Day. I absolutely think she's wonderful, and what a great voice, and she's fun, and I love Rock Hudson with her. They were the best of friends, and they just had such a great chemistry. And I'm talking about Pillow Talk from 1950.
This is a great movie. Yeah.
I had to narrow down my Doris Day movies because there were so many to pick from.
There are, yeah.
Especially in this time frame. But basically Doris Day and Rock Hudson are neighbors, and they share a party line. And if anybody doesn't know what a party line is, I had one when I was a kid. It's where your neighbors all have the same phone number. You have a different phone number, but it all rings at your house. So if my phone number ended with an 8, my neighbors would end with a 7, and theirs would end with a 6, and then 5, and then we would all it would all ring, and whoever's house picked it up, that's who you got. So you would have to share phone time. And this movie could not be made today because it would not make sense to anyone. But Rock Hudson is a playboy. He's a songwriter. He's a womanizer. And Doris Day's character is Jan, and she's an interior designer, and she hates Rock Hudson. She's never met him. She just hates him because every time she needs to use her phone, he is on the phone trying to Casanova his way into the bedroom with another woman. And she gets tired of it. She so gets tired of it. And he sees her and thinks, I could get her. And he actually does a little bit of a con on her where he changes, he pretends to be somebody else. He pretends to be a rancher from Texas who's a sweet old boy, and she complains about her neighbor to him, and they start dating and all of that. And it's catfishing at its finest. Funny. It's funny.
It
he
is.
catches her in a non-internet way. He pretends to be somebody else to make her fall for him. And all the while he's actually falling for her. And it's a really funny, and I love their chemistry. They are the, Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks, that kind of chemistry that they had. And so if you haven't seen it, it's called Pillow Talk, and it is funny. It's a movie that translates to no other time than the one that it was made. You can't.
Agreed. It is a really funny movie. It's a lot of fun to watch. And again, a romantic comedy, and I'm giving it thumbs up. So guys, this is not your typical man-bashing romantic comedy. This is a fun movie.
A little bit more man-bashy than some.
Because he's a jerk.
In this one, he deserves the man-bashing.
Yeah.
But he also woman bashes her.
He does.
Equally insult each other, because he calls her a prude because she doesn't sleep around, and she calls him a playboy because he does. She could have called him a lot worse. I'm just saying.
Right.
But that banter is fun. I love the banter. I love her in stuff like Please Don't Eat the Daisies, which is an amazing movie if you haven't seen it. But this one had to make my list just because I love Rock Hudson.
That's a good pick. That's a very good pick.
He was one of my first crushes, Rock Hudson.
Well, that's understandable. That is very understandable. So I'm looking through my list, and you've taken a couple of mine. So, and that's okay, because I knew that I knew we shared them. I knew one of us would get it. I thought, what?
You have extra, right? You said you had.
I do have extra, and I may throw some of those up there. I don't have pictures of my extras.
I have 2 left, so.
Right. So I've got one. Let me throw my one out, and we'll do one of yours, and then I'll throw something out. But I'll actually look for a picture real quick, because I know the one that was top of my list that I was mad I didn't add. So I have one of those also. How can you not add this? But so all right. So my number one, and if you've been watching and taking count, this is a James Dean movie, and it's probably the most iconic James Dean movie, even though he just had 3. It is Rebel Without a Cause. 50s teenagers that are basically bored. A lot of it is that they're bored, wanting something to do. You've got the car racing.
Their parents don't understand them.
It's the teenage Yanks to the nth degree. It's very well acted.
Yeah, it's one of the first real teenage angsty, horribly.
Yes, it is.
Angry angsty, not just I'm gonna sneak out of the house. No, these kids are angry.
Right. They are. They're very angry at their parents, and well, and you have the parents that that were from the Depression era, and they're acting very different than how things are now in the 50s.
Right.
So
every generation has that. You think your kids are they are not, like, you don't understand them. And as a parent, I can see that they weren't mean to their kids. Like, they just didn't know how to communicate with their children.
Right. It was a completely different world.
And you have the bully, and of course you have the
bully.
Wood. Like,
and I was going to mention that another reason I love this movie is Natalie Wood is beautiful.
Yeah.
So.
And then my favorite part of this movie is Sal.
Yep.
Sal. He's just brings that I don't know how to put it, like that kid that you just want to take care of, like that sweet, like you want to be friends with him and you want to just like protect him. He brings that to every role he played before he passed away, of course. And it's weird because if you look at the three main characters, the three main actors, James Dean passed away tragically, Sal Mineo passed away tragically, and Natalie Woods passed away tragically.
She did.
They all had very, very hard lives and very tragic lives and deaths. They all had those issues. And I feel like this movie actually captures some of those moments in their way. But yeah. No, I like the movie. Like I said, it was the first James Dean movie I'd ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I actually saw his movies in order of how they were made.
Right.
And I seen East of Eden, and it's just that he acted so, he
similar.
brought intensity, but it was in very similar moments.
Right.
And so didn't even when I was a kid, I was a critic. What can I say? I was like, I didn't know how I would feel about him as he progressed. I didn't realize that he was dead, and that he had passed away making just 3 movies. I did not realize that. So, no, I like this. It's iconic too. James Dean in the red jacket. We talked about Marilyn in the white dress.
Yes.
Talk about James Dean in the white t-shirt and the red jacket.
Yep.
It's a very sad movie.
It is. It's
like,
a very sad movie.
It's not our feel-good comedies.
Nope. See, I've got musicals. I've got sad movies. What do you want? I've got comedies. I've got action. I threw everything in there.
Romance.
Didn't I have a romance? I don't know. Angry Man. No, that's not romantic. I don't know. Probably not. Forbidden Planet. No, that's not romantic. East of Eden's a little bit, but yeah, it's okay. All right, so not really any romance in that one.
Next time you'll have to find a romance.
Well, you know what? I think my next one, since I'm going to throw an extra one in, I consider this one a romance one. It's an action romance movie. So I'll keep you hanging there while you give me your next one.
So my the number 2 is a movie that you've never seen. And it's actually based on a play. And it's Rosalind Russell.
It's true, I've not.
1957, Auntie Mame. This movie is so funny. It's so weird, so quirky. Auntie Mame, Rosalind Russell plays a woman named Mame in the 1920s who is independent and wants to live her life to the fullest. And she has she has to take care of her nephew, Patrick, and she wants him to have a fun life and have excitement and adventure. And she marries the most wonderful man who loves her, and they go on all of these adventures, and they send Patrick to school because Patrick has another guardian who's in charge of his schooling and his money and stuff. And he wants him to be a businessman and like serious. And Auntie Mame is not about that.
Right.
Yeah. The first part of the movie is about Patrick growing up. Like it's not that long, but it's like montages of him growing up and what she would do and everything. It gets really funny when she comes back after her husband passes away from falling off a mountain, trying to take a picture of her. That's what kind of life they had. And she comes back and Patrick's not a little boy anymore. And he's engaged to a very snotty, like prejudiced, like girl who's part of a very prejudiced family. Like they have the country clubs that, we can't have certain people, that kind of thing. And that is,
I was always one of those people you couldn't have.
Right. And that is Mame is all about artists and accepting people for who they are. And she has taught Patrick to be like this. And she is shocked and does her darndest to break them up. It's all about like she wants more for him than he wants for himself. It's a beautiful movie. It's the sets are amazing. The costumes, like wonderful. Rosalind Russell walking down the staircase in a full Mame outfit, like in her crazy ass house. Oh my gosh, beautiful. And they just have the most fun in this movie. I feel like this movie was just like, yes, fun. It's so
right.
You've got to watch it now.
Well, from you telling me that, I'm like, okay, it's checking all the boxes. I've got to see this movie because, I'm kind of the quirky art person who don't exclude people. Don't be stupid. That's just.
You would be friends. You would.
Yes.
And that's the thing. And Mame is like, I accept everyone as long as they accept everyone. Mame's
right.
A snob too. Don't get me wrong, she is, and that's the whole point of it. But she's a snob for all the right reasons. That sounds weird, but she's a snob to people who treat other people so badly that it makes her mad, and she just wants to shake them. And it's really the story of a woman who loves a child who's not hers, which I can relate to. She helped raise, and she feels like he is part of her. And she wants him to just have the happy life, not a successful life. It's the whole like Mr. Feeney at the end of Boy Meets World where he says, go off and do good. And Topanga goes, you mean do well? And he goes, no, I mean do good. And that's what Mame brings to him. She's like, I want you to have a happy life, not a life that seems happy, but I want you to be happy in life. And it's a beautiful story. So it's fun. You should watch it.
I definitely will. I will definitely check that one out because that one, it sounds like it's up my ballpark. So I'm like, yeah, that's completely it. I can't believe I've not seen it, but I don't know.
Either. You're like a stage theater nerd. Like, I can't believe you.
I know, right?
How?
It's true.
It's a thing.
I don't know.
I bring you.
It's not
movies. At least one movie every list that you've not seen. Do you know?
That's probably
that?
true. It's probably true.
So what?
It's hard to find one that you don't know, especially one that I love, because you're like, oh, this is a Larry movie. It's on his list. I'm like, you're like, I could have wrote the list. I don't know the order. It's this.
It's true. It's true. I actually thought I did not think Rebel Without a Cause was going to be your number one. So you got me there. I knew it was on your list.
See, okay.
Number one.
Well, I don't know. I just love that movie. So I don't know. Anyway. All right. So let me give you my one of my bonus ones here.
Okay. What you got?
Because so you wanted a romance movie.
Yes.
I bring you a romance movie.
How romantic?
Cary Grant, Grace Kelly.
I love.
Do you know where I'm going?
I think so.
This is an action romance movie about a former thief that's trying to catch a thief.
How to Catch a Thief.
How to Catch a Thief. This is a great movie. This is one that I also toiled on not including because it kept being on my list and I'm like, I can't. I just couldn't find the right place for it. So, but I love this movie, and this movie is a romance movie, but it's also an action movie.
It's an odd romance movie, though. It's so weird.
It's odd, yes.
Because you think that Cary Grant and Grace Kelly should go together. Because you think of them, but it's an odd one because even though they put them together in this and they make it work, in the back of your mind for some reason you're like, that doesn't quite work. But it works for the script because it doesn't quite work. It's a weird
Right. It is.
Yeah. No, I like that movie. I think that's a good movie. It's not all romance, but it's a romance to you. It's a stage, okay? Because if anybody's watched these videos, you guys know that Larry does not pick romance movies hardly ever.
I don't know. I mean, I think some of mine are.
Oh, you pick movies that are romantic to you.
Well, that's probably true.
Not in the romance genre. This one's kind of there. It can be there. I've seen it there.
But I was going to say, I think of this one as an action / romance movie. Yeah. It pulls in, and I did pick romantic comedies. So
I'll tell you this, I do remember one that you picked, and that was Sabrina. That was a romance. That's basically
exactly.
There you go. I'll give you one.
but of course it's Bogey. So Bogey and Audrey, so yeah. So, but yes, and Serena was top of my list. So anyway, anyway, so here.
I think that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, I
there.
This is not. I don't know. This movie isn't just. It's good, but it's not like the greatest movie ever. I just enjoy the snot out of it, though.
Right, and that's the thing is like some of these movies are not like I pick some movies because they are cinematically beautiful.
Right.
Vertigo being my cinematic one. My first one, the one that's coming up, is also cinematically beautiful.
It is.
Some of them I just pick because I will watch them over and over and over again. If they're on TV and I find it, I'm not passing it up. And that's how I know I love a movie. Even though sometimes I have the weirdest taste in movies. And I agree. So let's get to my number one.
Number one.
My number one movie is a huge movie. It's in length. It's huge.
It is.
In sets, huge. In star power, huge.
Humongous.
And in decades that the movie spans, huge. And this movie stars my favorite, Rock Hudson, Elizabeth Taylor, and of course, it was James Dean's last movie.
James
This
Dean.
movie is giant. That's
gigantic.
It's such an epic movie. And you see the cover, you think it's going to be like a Western, and it isn't. It isn't.
Right. Right.
Rock Hudson plays a Texan, a pure Texan, like born and raised, has Riata, which is like thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of acres. And he goes back east to buy a horse. And he comes back with the beautiful horse and a wife.
He does.
Which
is an interesting scene. That is really where he goes to get the horse at the beginning, and
she gets him because she challenges him.
Yes.
The banter. She challenges him, and she goes out west after knowing this man for 2 weeks, gets married, takes his personal train because there wasn't the airplanes yet. Takes his personal train all the way out there. I love the scene where they're on the train and they pull up the thing and she's like, when will we be in Texas? And he goes, that is Texas. Like, we've been here forever.
Right. Right.
And you know, and then they pull up to the train station and they leave his car and the rest of the train goes off. And they get out and then they have to travel by car for like hours,
right,
to get to the middle of his property where there's a big, beautiful, like Victorian Gothic manor that is out in the middle of a desert.
Yep.
The scenes are beautiful. I like Elizabeth Taylor. I have a love-hate relationship with Elizabeth Taylor movies. This one, though, as Leslie, she shined. And
she does.
She brought wit and fierceness. And, you know, she's from Washington, D.C., and she comes to this Texas, which is like a whole other country. And she brings her ideas and she infuses them and starts infusing them into the whole Texas lifestyle. And it spans like decades. It talks about their marriage, and they get married, they have babies, and James Dean plays basically the cowhand who's a white cowhand. Right. He's not one of the Hispanic help that they have. He is a white cowhand, and he is a prejudice. He does not want to be considered like them. And he falls in love with Elizabeth Taylor because she's just beautiful. But he can't ever have her. She is in love with her husband. And she doesn't pretend to be in love with anybody else. He wants to make his life better, and he finds oil, because that's what they were doing then in Texas. They were finding oil, and he becomes rich. And it's just about the story about this family and how they raise their children, because they have 2 girls and a boy. They have twins. Their first 2 are twins, a boy and a girl. And then they have another girl. And it's how they raise their children. He wants his son to be like this rancher, big, tough guy. And his son wants to be a doctor. And his son
married
a Hispanic woman. And that was like frowned upon. And the twin daughter, Leslie, the mom, wants her to be a debutante, and she wants to be a farmer's wife. And it's just this complementary thing that they complement each other on, but they challenge each other every moment of every day. You can tell if they challenge each other. And it's just beautiful. My favorite Rock Hudson scene is in this movie. His son marries a Hispanic girl, and they have a child, and his daughter marries a white man farmer, and they have a child, and they're about the same age. And so they have this blonde-haired, blue-eyed grandson and this brown-haired, brown-eyed grandson. And they're at this restaurant at almost the end of the movie. And they're at this restaurant, and they don't want to feed the daughter-in-law and the grandson, who, you know, has brown hair and brown eyes. And Rock Hudson goes out of character, steps out of it's finally hit him, all the prejudice he's had his whole life, and how can he stand back and let somebody do this to his grandson? And he gets a fight. There's a fight, and he's an older man at this point. Like in the movie, he's like an older man, but he's still Rock Hudson. And he fights for this moment, and his wife looks at him, and you can see that she is just so proud to be his wife at that moment.
Right.
And she has, even though she's always been proud to be his wife, at that moment it was like this lifetime of love. And it's just a beautiful movie. I love it. I watched it the other day.
It's a great movie.
It's like 3.5 hours long.
It is a long movie. You're exactly right. But it's one of those movies that brings you in to where if you're not looking at your watch constantly, wondering what time it is, you can get lost in it to where you don't pay attention. That's how The Godfather was with me, where you just get lost into it. Like, man, this is going on for a while, but I'm so into this, I don't care. But yeah, it's a great pick. That's a great pick. Three great actors right there.
Right.
So,
It's just and they are just three of the actors. Like that cast was beautifully cast. Sal Mineo
it
is
was.
he plays
Yep.
Angel, who is the young boy of the farm, one of the farm hands. It's just a beautiful, beautiful movie. The cinematography of it is amazing. The wardrobes, the screenplay, or the script, the screenplay of it, the way that Elizabeth Taylor's character talks is very much women's lib and feminist, and but set in a time in Texas where it was, that's not how you're supposed to talk. And she challenges her husband, but she challenges every man in Texas, because every political or powerful man in Texas has come to their house at one point or another, because he is a very rich and powerful man too. And she sits there, and there's a scene where they're talking about politics, and he's like, Leslie, why don't you go over with the women? And she goes ballistic. She's like, you don't think a woman can talk politics? I was raised in DC. You guys don't even understand true politics. But you know what, women, let's go on up to our rooms, because let's let the men, it's a beautiful thing. I love it so much.
Yes.
You let me talk too much, Professor.
No, I don't. You bring a lot of really cool stuff with it. No, this is a great movie. You're right. It's very much a women's lib movie, but done super well.
Yeah.
Super well. Not real preachy, except for the character can be preachy at times, but the movie itself's not preachy. So.
Leslie can be preachy, but she kind of has to be. Because Vic, which is her husband, Rock Hudson's character, is so stuck in his antiquated ways. And so every other person who lives next to him or lives on the farm, or even the help, even James Dean, is stuck in these antiquated, these people are less than ways. And she doesn't think like that. And it's a movie about equality. It's a movie about feminism. It's a movie about family and how you can change and how time changes, and you should learn to evolve with it. It's such a great movie, but it's still so beautiful and so much fun.
I agree.
Yay.
Oh, that's a great selection. So yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna share what's else on my list, and if you want to share some of the ones on your list also, we can do that. So I understand. Okay, well we'll go quick here. So okay, so I'm throwing a John Wayne Western out there on my list. Rio Bravo. I love that movie. It's a very funny Western. There's a lot of comedy to it. Very almost spaghetti Western, but it wasn't. But anyway, so that's probably one of my favorite John Wayne movies. So
I'll throw one of my favorite John Wayne's from that. I don't know if it's the actual time period, but it's from the 50s, and that's The Sons of Katie Elder.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
I like Westerns. Not really.
Yeah,
I'll try.
I'm the same way. I occasionally one, if it's done well, I like, but I'm not a big Western person, even though my father was. Another one is Ben-Hur. I mean, that's an iconic movie that we got left off the list.
It was on my long list. It's one of those movies I love, but I have to be in the mood to watch it, because it is a long movie as well. And it is it was one of those movies that was very much like during those biblical movies, like The Road and Bathsheba and
Ten Commandments.
The 10 Commandments, all of those. It was in that genre of it without actually being.
It was.
without actually being a Bible movie.
Right,
But
right.
no, it's so good, and it's iconic. The chariot race alone is iconic. So
That's exactly right. Which I was sad we didn't get that on there because of that, because of being so iconic. But I did want to mention that. You got another one you want to throw out there?
I can't think of one.
Okay, all right. I'll go through my list here. The Night of the Hunter.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah. So that's one that's on my list. Let's see, where did I changed pages from my list? Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. I love that movie.
I hate that.
That's such a fun movie. Do you really? Oh my gosh.
I hate that movie. I do not know why either. It's not bad. It's not a bad script. It's not a bad cast. It's not it's one of those movies that just rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know why. I don't.
That is interesting. I don't know. I don't know. That's okay.
Those movies that they want to like so much, and then they just don't. And I don't know why. Nothing about it is bad, and I've seen it like 4 times. I keep trying with it, and I just can't.
We all have things we don't like. That's okay. I like that one. Horror of Dracula. We talked about being one of the more iconic Dracula movies with forgetting their names. Basically, yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But it's an iconic Dracula movie from that time frame.
Christopher Lee.
What?
Christopher Lee.
Yep, and yes, Christopher Lee. Yes.
And Peter Cushing.
Yes, Peter Cushing. Yeah, that's who I was thinking. So get your people from Star Wars. So.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Well, right.
Oh, you like. Oh my God, that's
funny. Where I knew both of. Well, I didn't know both of them there first. Also, The Man Who Knew Too Much.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, I didn't even have that on the list. That's a good one.
Oh, well, I got one that wasn't on your list. Of course, you've seen it, but also Jimmy Stewart. So.
Jimmy Stewart, of course.
Of course, it's Jimmy Stewart, right?
Jimmy Stewart, of course.
Doris Day, Jimmy Stewart. And of course, there's another Doris Day movie there for you.
Yeah, right there. If it has Doris Day in it, I've seen it. If it has Jimmy Stewart in it, I've seen it. If it has Rock Hudson in it.
I understand. If it has Humphrey Bogart in it, I've seen it.
I have too, but mostly because he plays with other people. Why? You crack me up.
Well, anyway, so those are the ones. Those are some extras that were on my list. Those are all worth checking out, guys. If you haven't seen some of those, check those out. Those are worth watching. And yeah, I think we'll call it a night so you can get to sleep and as your roving reporter job in the daytime. And
tomorrow I have an interview and a tour and another interview, and so. And then, of course, I do the interviews, and then I have to transcribe the interviews, and then I have to turn the transcript into stories. So, and I had a 15-minute transcription, like an interview today. And 15 minutes doesn't seem like a long time, but when you're writing the whole transcription out, it's like 5 pages, and I got to turn it into a story.
No, right. No, that's something I've noticed is you do an interview, the transcription, you're like, holy crap, it's taking me forever to write this up. So, yeah.
I know. And the thing is, it's a lot of fun. I'm not complaining. This last weekend, I was on call, and we didn't have any major stories happen while I was on call. And I was like, but it was my first weekend on call, and I really wanted something important to happen, and nothing happened.
You wanted Branson to, catch fire and.
No, I Like, no, I had enough of the death stuff last week. I just wanted something
Yeah.
fun.
Oh, that's true.
But that's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
I will eventually, from what I've understood, because January and February are the slow months in Branson, I
Right.
won't have many of those weekends when I have. But I only work. We have a rotating schedule, so I work like the fourth weekend of every 4 weekends.
See that it compared to what you were working weekend wise, that must be like you're like, I don't know what to do with a weekend here. Wow, this is kind of cool.
And I pretty much make my own schedule, except for like when I have events and stuff like that. So I work from home sometimes too. So that's fun. It's different.
That's a much better place. Yeah. Well, I know. I think it's a great fit for you. So
this is my third week, or well, it's my second week, but it's my third. I think it's my third newspaper, fourth newspaper, and I've been in all of them so far. They have never had a week without me since I've been there.
See, there you go. You're getting printed.
I'm on the front page this time.
Ace.
Or tomorrow's
That's
paper.
what I heard. Yeah.
Yay.
Front page.
Front page.
There you go. You'll be the name everybody knows. Everybody wants to be like AJ, getting all the front page stories.
No.
Yes, front page news.
No,
all right. Well, before we go, let's talking about people you work with. Let's talk about the nerd informants real quick.
Nerd informants, Tim and Josh over at the Nerd Informants on YouTube and Facebook. They bring you all kinds of nerdy content. They do movie reviews. They do game reviews. They have a podcast and a live feed. And oh my gosh, they're so talented and so funny. And you guys should go give them like a subscribe on Facebook, a like, or subscribe on YouTube, a like on Facebook. It's been a long day. But yeah, go check them out and tell them that we sent you. They're fun though. I like them. And then we have our friends over at Pop.
Let them know.
Let them know. Okay, I'm just like Pop Culture Minefield. Keith and Gary, if you like what we do here, they do something similar, except they get way more like scoops. They know everyone, so they get like all the inside scoops, and their videos are a little less kid friendly, but still a lot of fun for us adults. So go over to Pop Culture Minefield on YouTube and go give them a subscribe, like, comment, share. Tell them that we from GeekyKOOL sent you over there. They're amazing and fun. And if you watch their videos, you will learn a lot of stuff. Oh, so then
you will. And you'll get to see Keith laugh a lot.
Oh my gosh, it's my favorite part of their show. Gary will say something and Keith just goes and just starts cracking up. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. He knows it too. I've told him. And then we have Shmoo over at Scallywag Productions, the Scallywag himself. You're going to find him on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. He's everywhere. And he has 5 shows a week. This week we did not do shows because he's working on a tribute for a friend of his. But we usually have, look. There he is. That's the Scallywag himself. We usually have 5 shows a week. He does Mindless Dribble. He does a series of enigmatic events with me. Just a little bit of something for everyone. And then don't forget to check us out. We have our website at GeekyKOOL.com. We're also on YouTube and Facebook. While you're there, please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that like button on Facebook. And if you like what we do and you know other people who like it, be sure to share it, because we really want to reach as many geeky people as we can. How's that?
We love geeky people.
Professor's just like, yeah.
We love non-geeky people too, but we love geeky people.
Well, I feel like geeky people like us.
So, when you say that, get right. Well, they should. Every time you say, what is it? They're everywhere. I always think of Chicken Man, the old radio show Chicken Man. Do you remember that, Chicken Man?
You crack me up so much. Yes, I am that old, Professor. Yes, I remember that. Thanks for throwing that out there.
Yeah, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. Chicken Man. He's everywhere. He's everywhere. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, we are too goofy.
Anyway,
I just realized my hair matches.
that's why people tune in.
Because we're goofy.
It does. It's true.
I just was like, wait, my hair's really matching my shirt today. That's funny. Okay, guys, I'm gonna get off here. I'm gonna go take a shower and go to bed so I can be up for my interview in the morning. So, bye. Bye, Professor. Thanks.
All right. Bye, everybody. Stay geeky. You bet. See you later, Ace.
Bye.